Hello, welcome to the Impact Dynamics podcast.
I'm Plushy.
I'm Rusty.
We talk about military-grade hand sanitizer.
And we also talk about why Andy's not here. Actually, no, stuff that guy. Let's talk about something more interesting. Let's go.
Boom.
Match director, mate. Match director. Hello, Andy.
Hooray!
Hooray. Hope that's enough.
We need your vote.
Now we've caught up to where we are on the podcast.
All right, go on back.
Roll the outro. All right, Plushy, we've got lots of things to explain. Andy's not here, but you're not here, and I'm not here either. And Josh isn't here. Hi, Josh.
But I'm not here. Why would I say hello?
You just did. Sucker. This is an episode we recorded a while ago, and we thought we'd put it in the bank and bring it out when we were doing. So I'm sure whoever's editing this will be able to say, sorry, guys, we've been moving. Sorry, guys, Andy's away and couldn't be bothered recording an episode. Sorry, our microphones blew up and we couldn't afford new ones. Sorry, Josh died. Actually, that's
wow,
probably
things took a really deep turn.
So for one of the above reasons,
I'm going to stop drinking. Actually, no, maybe not.
in fact, probably drink more. Might add to the story.
Pass that bottle.
For one of the above reasons, this is going to be real bad if that actually plays out.
Josh, you should sleep on the couch tonight, all right?
I think I will.
Play it safe, buddy.
Not this couch though; that'll kill you. For one of these reasons, this episode was sort of. Oh, we're off to a killer start. Plushy, how are you?
Killer start. Good work.
Thanks. This is why I podcast. I'm good with words and things. How are you?
Keep them well, buddy. I'm not dead. I'm alive. Yeah, I'm turning 40, but I'm not quite dead.
You would have turned 40 ages ago, mate.
That's right.
Ages
Yeah.
Nearing your 42nd birthday?
No, my 80th birthday, I think. Yeah.
You look like it. Josh, how are you?
I don't know. I don't know now. I'm concerned.
Can I check your pulse, buddy? Are you okay?
Right, well, I'm going to blame this gin that we bought. This gin came from one of the guys who works here called Remy. He suggested this gin. Actually, he didn't. He suggested another one, but we bought this one as well. This one is called Mandarin Gimlet, and it's full on. Josh,
It's strong.
it is strong. It
Yeah.
is, what are you drinking there, Plushy?
Good question.
Germ killer.
Some Shifty Lizard seasonal double IPA black. No, black. I can't read that.
Double IPA.
That could be
Gin straight. I think we've found the reason for the intro to this show so far. Anyway, we actually have some shooting related questions. probably something to do with that. We'll talk about that later, and you can put that in your beard later. Let's committed to that. Nice. Plushy, thanks for joining us. You used to shoot. No, actually, before we get into that, sorry, I was going to go down one train, but we just recorded another episode, and that was sort of went out around the same time. That was about Hilltop. So if you remember back to the episode about Hilltop and the shoot there, the Carla's King of the Hill, you said there was a story about Andy. As soon as we stopped recording, you're like, oh, I should have told the story about Andy. So now, months on, tell the story about Andy. Tell the story about Andy. We'll beep out the parts that are inappropriate.
Yeah, it's in typical Andy fashion. You know how he cottons on to something and then he's like, oh.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do a podcast with him actually.
So Saturday night, he'd gone pretty well on the Saturday at Hilltop.
Yep.
I think he'd only dropped a handful of points, maybe 6 or 7 or something like that. So he's probably in the running
pretty
at that
happy.
stage.
Yep.
Yeah, doing well.
Yeah, I like you prefer it at that stage.
Oh yeah,
Things changed.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
So he was really happy. He's a Carlo sponsored shooter, all that sort of stuff. It's a Carlo sponsored match. He's like, yeah, putting on a good show for the sponsor.
Yeah.
And we were there, and we've been drinking CC and Dry Friday night and Saturday night. We'd had a few.
Yep.
They were giving it to us in, I don't know what is in New South Wales, an Imperial pint glass.
Oh, so it was on tap, was it?
Well,
Oh, okay. Here we go.
So we're like, oh, Andy's going pretty well. We're going to have to mess with him here. So I'm like, when he got some drinks and like, oh, that's a triple CC and dry bait. Just take it easy. He's like, doesn't taste like it. Yeah, drinks away. And Josh got around. He's like, another triple CC and dry.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I want to shoot pretty well tomorrow. We're like, yeah, you'll be fine, Andy. And then I think I went and got another round after that. I can't remember.
You guys are generous guys.
I think that was the espresso martini round or one of them.
Yes.
He comes back and he's like, oh, I really don't think I can drink this. I'm like, why? And he's like, well, I've got to try and shoot good tomorrow. He's like, there's a lot of triples there. I'm like, when was the last time you got served a triple CC dry and an Imperial pint glass, Andy? What do you mean? It's on tap. And he's like, but what about last night? You're like, it was on tap last night too, Andy. He's like, so how many have I had? I'm like, all right.
2.
Some pint glasses.
Actually,
I was waiting
remember
for
this.
I was waiting for him to ask, is there 3 taps? Like,
I remember this because I take issue with Andy because he didn't buy his round of drinks.
He did not. He
didn't.
cheaped out.
He wussed out.
Yeah.
and he's not even here tonight.
It was time for another espresso martini and he didn't get them.
Although it's probably best that we didn't have any espresso martinis because we would not have slept that night.
Yeah, probably.
Right,
Anyway.
all right. We've told our Andy triple story, and Andy, if you're watching this, which you probably aren't, but if you're watching this,
You owe us drinks.
espresso martinis. That's right, all round.
Yeah.
Now, Plushy, your foray into PRS stemmed from F class, ish. You shot F class
Kind of.
before PRS. Tell me,
That's
tell
a
me
better
more.
way of putting it.
Okay,
yeah.
great. So I'm curious about sort of some of those parallels, some of the skills that have come across, and I know you said you didn't shoot F class for that long, but you shot it and you went to some of the Queen's shoots and that sort of gear, and you did all right from what I understand. So take us back. I got Italian very quickly there for a moment. Take us back to the beginning of your F class interest. What got you down that path?
Good question. I wanted to be a
Ask yourself why every day.
That's right. Yeah, I still regret it.
No, carry on. Can't be that bad. You've brought us here. It's brought you here.
That's right. No, where did I get into it? I think at that point I had a 22 and I had maybe a 243 and I was looking to stretch it out and go a bit longer range, I guess.
Okay. Yep.
And we'd seen that. I can't remember. I'd seen it. Might have gone out for not a come and try day, but a bit of a come and try day, for want of a better word.
Yep. Sure.
And had a bit of a look and was like, this seems interesting. These guys, I think they were shooting 900 metres or something like that day. And as you do, much the same we do at a PRS match, some really generous people would be like, do you want to have a shot?
Yeah.
Like, oh, no, it's all right. He's like, no, have a shot. Tim was the guy.
Okay. Shout out to Tim.
That's right.
Yeah. Good stuff, mate. Getting people in the sport.
Yeah, and he's have a shot, and he's giving you some wing calls, and he's like, I wasn't new to shooting, but had a rough idea of what I was doing, and then you all of a sudden you put a couple of shots into a 10 ring or an X ring or something, which is 900 meters, 4.5 inches is an X ring, so it's pretty sporty. You're like, this is interesting. I think I can do this, and before you know it, I had a full custom F-class rifle.
That accelerated very quickly there, Josh.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah, I have never even been around F-class shooting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You
so
have,
if you've got any questions, you're welcome to ask.
I will.
You've been next door to it because the
I
Monado
have.
range is next door to it.
That's where I was about to go with that.
Yeah, I heard your joke and I went around with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually really good when the F-class guys shoot next to our home range because they put their wind flags out. And I know what their wind flags I know what their wind
All right.
flags
So
mean.
you've gone too far ahead. So you had a come and try day, for lack of a better word. You did you just went along and had a shot. And you were like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Because shooting targets long range. Absolutely. So where did it go from there? What was the next sort of step?
Well, I think actually while I was getting my rifle built, I think I actually found an old Omark, which if anybody remembers One Shot Scott.
Yes, we do.
Shout out Scott.
Shout out
Hope
Scott.
you're
If you
going
haven't seen,
well.
if you're not familiar with One Shot Scott from the PRS match, you may be familiar from the Centurion Challenge.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, an old Sportco rifle, single shot. I managed to find one of those. Yep. Got it cheap in 308 and shot a few matches while I was waiting for my rifle to be built.
Yep.
Didn't do too badly. I think
Yep.
I think I might have won an OPM. They call it open medal, something like that. Like a regional, like state regional interclub sort of competition. Like one club will put it on a competition and 10 other clubs will attend or something like that.
Okay. So the stakes are increasing a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. I think I won a toaster and a set of steak knives or something like that.
You ripper.
Yeah.
Don't
But
combine
I want
those
to go
two.
in a toaster.
Yeah.
Hang on. Don't put those two together. Is there a reason they get those knives and a toaster? Wow. It'd be worse if you get a bath and a toaster.
There's not a lot of sponsorship in F class.
Yeah.
At the higher levels there is, but at the the club
I'm not
levels there's
bagging steak knives and toasters, by the way. I'm just.
I
it's
think-
an interesting combination to get together.
I think Harris Garth may have sponsored the match.
Cool. All right. No worries.
That's I think
Thanks,
what happened.
Harris.
Yeah.
Good. Carry on.
Yeah. So
Oh wait, Josh was going to say something.
Can I jump in before we start
you cannot.
deep
Let's
dive
back
down
on.
F class? What can you give me like a 30-second minute rundown of F class? Like what does it entail? What is it?
That's a good. Well done, Josh.
Let's start with
well
that.
done.
I get it right once.
So the
We'll just leave it at that.
F class shot off of a, let's call it a front rest. Could be a bipod, not usually. Usually it's some sort of rest or a sled if it's FTR, a few different classes. Rear bag, shot prone. You have details. Generally you'll have two siders that you don't have to keep. They're just siders. Or you can choose to keep your score if you go well. And then you'll have 10 scoring shots. And generally club match, you'll quite often do 2 details, but a big match, like a bigger match, an OPM, you might do 6 or 8 details, and then going right up to a Queens, you probably do 20, 25 sort of details over several days. And you bring in the hunt, which is lead up match. You can be up to 300 plus rounds, something like that.
Yeah, solid. Okay.
Yeah, so you're shooting usually between 300 meters and 1,000 meters.
Yep.
The mound, so the shooting position moves, not the targets. So you move further back generally.
Yep.
Over the day, you start closer and usually work backwards. It's generally about accurate rifles and wing calls, the two key things.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's good to just, I guess, get that, just a brief overview, because like I'm, from what I've seen and been aware of, it's, you're just sort of laying down shooting targets, but I assume that there is a bit more involved. There's a bit more that goes with it than
once you get into your F opens and stuff, let me say it. The X ring is usually 1,000 meters. X ring is 5 inches, give or take. That's pretty small.
Yeah.
To keep all your shots in the X ring at 1,000 meters, you're doing pretty well if you put them all in there.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you went to a OPB?
OPM.
No, I just wanted to go with OPP.
No.
You know me.
No.
Okay, OPM. Right.
Yeah, I went and shot a couple of those. Did okay. My got my custom rifle, like a Barnard single shot action, Krieger barrel, all the cool thing, Nightfall scope, all that sort of stuff. Probably one of the takeaways I worked from there was all the guys. I'm like, what's everyone running? What works well?
Sure.
Everyone was running a 284.
Yep.
With 180 hybrids, Berger hybrids. I'm like, run these, 20 thou, jump, do a ladder test, off you go.
Yep.
I'm like, cool, no need to be different. They've got the wealth of experience where these other guys have been doing it for years.
Yeah.
I did that.
It's quite a mature sport, isn't it? Or discipline.
Yeah.
It's been around a long time. There's a lot of guys who know a lot about it.
Yeah, that's right.
there's
It's a reloading game as well. Huge reloading game.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, we did that. I still remember low dev. I'll probably never forget that. I did a ladder test without a chrono or anything like that, just purely for waterline at 500 meters. Picked a powder charge that looked pretty good. And then I remember we had they have a little spotting disc on the target. So it's a little square patch. It's about 50 millimeters square with a little dowel through it. And they mark your last shot. So when you shoot the target board goes down, there's a spotter in the butts. They put the little spotter in the hole. Then they score your target and up they go. So you can see where your last shot was, so you can make a correction, and then you can see your score and all that sort of stuff. So doing low dev, shot the first one, no worries, came back up, shot the second one, came it down over the radio. They're like, oh, you hit the spotter with the dowel in the like 6 mil timber dowel in the spotter. This is at 500 meters. I'm like, oh, cool. They put it back up, shot it again. They're like, you hit the spotter again. Okay. and put it down.
This is a good thing, right?
And put it down, up she comes. Fourth shot. Can you please stop shooting the spotter? So I put essentially four shots through the same hole at 500 meters.
Oh, wow.
I was like, well, I think this is low dev
This
done.
is done.
Low dev done in about 30 rounds.
Yeah.
And when you were down in the butts, so for F class, they moved to electronic targets now, so not so much the people have to be in the butts, but there used to be scorers sitting there with like a timber frame that would go up, and they'd have to pull it down and score it. And up it goes. And when you hit the spotter and the timber dowel, it explodes. It explodes, and the people in the butts get covered with timber. Oh, no. So it's not pleasant.
No, I bet. Wow.
I don't think I'll ever do that again.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it was an easy button as far as just taking that information of what everybody else was running, what works in these projectiles. You don't need to be radically different. You're just making your life hard. and it worked. Shot that for quite a while.
You
Shot
see
some-
some guys coming in and trying to reinvent the wheel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thinking, oh, no, I'll show these guys how it's done. And how does that go?
Usually not well.
Okay. Exceptions?
No, there's exceptions. That's what bench rest is. You know, the old saying that if somebody won a bench rest match with a flag tied to their rifle, then the next week everyone have a flag tied to their rifle.
I do know the saying, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there's always exceptions, but
Yeah.
as a whole, especially when you haven't got that wealth of experience. I didn't have a ton of reloading experience and all that sort of stuff behind me when I started that. So just going with what everybody knew worked seemed like the sensible option.
And you said that that F class is a big game. Reloading, you said, was one thing, and also wind calls.
Mm-hmm.
So, what experience with wind calls have you had leading into getting into that, and then what and how did you learn that?
Experience. You hold about half a fox right when it's further away. And that's the experience with wind calls I had.
Okay, great.
So they said, oh, here you go, use a ballistics app to get you going. They said you won't need it for long, but once you write out a dope card and you're okay, 4 miles an hour does this at this distance, and 8 and 10 and 12, and then they'll teach you about the flags, what the flags mean. So the flags are not only do they tell you wind direction, they also tell you the wind speed.
Because they're a certain weight, aren't they? And the wind at
certain
a certain
shape
speed
and all that
will
sort
do
of
a
stuff.
certain thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So they give you some really good information. So you start to look for those types of things. So you learn a basic ballistic app, but you get two-siders, so it doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of guys weren't even running ballistics app. They just run on like dope data on previous engagement. They'd be like, okay, well, generally at 800 meters, I need 6 mils. Or no, they don't run mils, they run MOA. They need 21 MOA or something like that to get on target, and then they've got 2 shots to adjust.
Yep.
So it's not first round impacts aren't
required,
but if you happen to put one through the middle,
claim it.
Well, no, because then your second sider may or may not be good. So you wait till your second sider before you decide if you want to keep your siders.
Oh, you can shoot 2 and then make the call.
Because you might shoot an X first up.
But it's a lucky shot.
A lucky shot, and then you might drop, you might shoot a 4 or something like that.
So do you have to, so you shoot your 2-siders.
Yep.
Do you have to take both of them?
Well, so if let's say you shot the scoring depends, but like when I shot it, the 6 was the top score.
Okay.
The highest number score, and then it was an X. So you had 10 shots, you could have a 60 with 10 X's was the perfect score.
Okay.
So if you shot an X and then you shot a 4, you could go, no, I don't want to keep those. But if you shot an X and a 6, you're like, yeah, I think I'm gonna keep
So
those.
you have to either keep both or none.
Yes, that's
You can't.
or no, you can keep your second sider. So
But you can't keep your first.
if you want to keep, you can't just keep your first, drop your second, and go on to your third.
Understood. Okay, yeah, sure.
So you may elect to keep some or none, and then there's tactics. You're looking at, you've got about, I can't remember now, it's been a while, 12 minutes or something for your detail to get your 12 shots
to
off.
shoot your 12 shots. Yeah.
So sometimes you'd look up and you're, okay, so this wind condition seems pretty constant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to shoot in this wind condition, hold center with no wind dialed on, and get my wind call. You might look for another condition that it's like, okay, it's doing this, but it's gusting to this. So you'd sit there and wait for your wind to gust. And then same deal, hold center and see what your wind was doing. And now you've got 2 conditions that you know roughly what they're doing. So F class is generally waiting till your condition, the condition that you want to shoot on is happening. So you can shoot, let's say that the wind is really steady with an occasional gust.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't want to shoot on the occasional gust, do you? You want to shoot when the wind is steady. Or another one is the wind is quite strong and you have an occasional let-off. So you want to shoot on the strong wind, not the occasional let-off. So you got to pick your conditions to try and get your 10 shots off.
And do you sometimes fire pretty rapidly?
Yes.
Because the wind, if you go like, this wind is perfect, I'm just going to bang, 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 bang type thing.
Yes, you can. So there's a couple of limits on that.
Okay. Because the targets have to drop and show you where your sider is, don't they?
So you're only as good as your target marker. Okay. And sometimes you get generally the shooters are generally good quick target markers because they understand it's nice to have a target in front of you, no target in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes you get a slow one or they're chatting. They get down there and they're talking away and then over the radio, can you pull target 6 please? And then it goes down and up it comes in. It's been a minute or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
But yes, so you could wait for a condition and you could rattle your 10 shots off in 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
Generally, you can get 2 shots a minute. you can do 3 to 4 shots a minute if you've got a really good marker, but you're also hitting your barrel and your things like that. So you want to be a little bit careful. So sometimes you could sit there. I've done it before. You might sit there for 8 minutes. Yeah, this is not the condition I want to shoot in.
Yep.
Or you've taken your 2-siders and the conditions just changed. You're sitting there waiting for the condition to come back, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to have to start shooting now because the condition's not going to come back. So you're forced to essentially take another sider, make a good wind call, and off you go. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
And do you have coaches in F class for wind?
Depends on the match.
Okay, all right.
So you have a singles match where it's all on you, and then you have teams matches where you're the trigger puller and you'll have a coach that's giving you the wind call.
And is that one coach that might be dealing with 3 or 4 shooters, or is it like one-on-one?
It depends.
Okay.
It can be both.
Okay.
So not that I've been to a F-Class World Championships, but I believe the system that the Australian team is running, and they've been pretty successful. They've won.
So I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, they've won the last 2 World Championships back-to-back in F Open. The Americans said the first one was a fluke, and they were genuinely surprised, I think, when the second one wasn't a fluke. So they'll have they have a head wind coach.
Yep.
And then they'll be looking purely at wind, and then they'll have some sub coaches, I suppose, or assistant coaches that are dealing with individual shooters.
Right. Okay.
And they're all talking on comms and stuff like that. And the head coaches will be like, shoot on this condition now.
Yep.
And then they'll be like, okay, do this, do that, do the assistant coaches.
Breaking it down to
that's
the
right.
individual
Then,
sort of gun and setup.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, they have a real range.
Yeah, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy, like new guys. I remember my wife coming out a few times, and she'd get down behind the gun, and you're like, all right, hold this, hold that.
Yeah.
And she'd lean over and like, this F-Class thing's pretty easy. I think I might give it a go. You're like, yeah, it should be shooting better than you. Like,
It just meant you're a better wind caller.
Right. So you can call your own wind now. And it's like, and they're like, crossfire, shooting on the target next door or something like that. And, hey, this is actually a bit harder than I thought. But yeah, you can, when your only job is pulling the trigger.
You can do that well. You can
do that well.
Okay.
Except when you think they made the wrong wind call.
I bet that leads to some discussions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's a good way to upskill. And you are generally regarded as a pretty good wind caller now in the PRS side of things. You're staring at me blankly. You're not believing me. From what I'm told, when I understand what I've seen, that is true. And would you credit a fair bit of that at the time you spent in F class?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because that's from what you indicated, like really a good gun, and then you spend a lot of time reloading and doing that well. It really comes down to wind calling on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
if you've done everything else right, it's a wind calling competition. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. As opposed to like PRS, where that's an element of multiple things because you can be in a position that's not fun to shoot from, or problem solving, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It's the main variable, I guess, on the day. As you said, like obviously you got to reload well to get to that point, have the gun set up well.
Yep.
A lot of planning and preparation for it. And then on the day, of course, you have to shoot well. We're not skipping over that. You actually have to pull that trigger extremely consistently and well.
Yep.
But taking that's your only thing to do there. Yeah, the wind side of things is the big variable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like I need to spend some time with you at the range.
Did you see how I shot on the weekend? Maybe that's not the best idea.
Okay.
No, it's actually something I do pride myself. Usually, I'm generally pretty good on a first round impacts.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily a PRS match or something like that, but
Just
if
in
I'm out at a property or something like that. Got a few funny stories about people sending lots and lots of rounds at a small target at distance, can't hit it, and get up there with something undersized caliber, and you're like, wind call, elevation, bang, impact. Move back to what you're doing, and they're still sending. They're still sending some very expensive rounds that said small target, not hitting it.
I know who you're talking about, but we won't have to name names. Josh just worked out who you're talking about as well.
It is probably something that, like, genuinely, next time I'm at the range and you're there, I probably will pick your brain about, because, like, when conditions are wet, like, perfect, I'd like to think I'm generally pretty good to be able to hit stuff, but the moment wind comes into things, I'm just completely guessing and winging and hoping for the best rather than making an educated call going, all right, I think this is going to get me close. It's just maybe it'll hit.
Yeah, you're at that level where when the wind's consistent and you've got a handle on it, we're like, I'm going to stop helping this guy soon. He's starting to get good.
Yeah, not wrong. Is there things you did apart from shooting that honed your wind calling ability? Is there anything you did outside of that?
I keep meaning to take my Kestrel with me, like to work and stuff, and then make a wind call and just go check it with the Kestrel and try and calibrate yourself.
Keep meaning to do this.
I keep meaning to do it. I haven't done it.
Okay.
But I do think we were talking about this recently where we talk in miles per hour.
We
generally,
do generally in PRS, yeah.
but we don't use miles per hour for anything in Australia. Well, not since the 1970s anyway. I'm
trying to think of the thing that breaks your rule apart from shooting. But you're right. Miles per hour is really the dominant.
We just don't
the
use
other
it.
one, and the other one that gets me is the guys who don't call miles per hour, call him meters per second.
This is where I'm going. So
Right, here we go. Okay.
So-
strap yourselves in, guys.
sorry,
I've just built it up a lot.
literally. So do you know how I think about it? I'm like, I don't know what miles per hour is, but I remember my first car was the speedo was in miles per hour. So I'm pretty good at converting miles per hour to k's per hour, so you don't get speeding fines, or so you don't drive everywhere really slowly.
How many
more
speeding
importantly.
fines did you get?
Well, none, because 30 miles an hour is 50 k's an hour. So you drive
Because
at
your car
30
not
k's
good
an hour.
enough to go faster?
No, it was a
When you were-
67 HR. It did not go anywhere quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you were, it wasn't 50 k's an hour you were worried about when you were growing up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because you're my age and that was 50 k's an hour wasn't a thing then.
So I do this thing where I'm like, is that 5 miles an hour? And you're like, how fast is 5 miles an hour? And you're like, oh, that's 8 kilometers per hour. I'm like, how fast is, okay, somebody walks at 5 to 6 kilometers an hour. Okay, that's 3 miles per hour. You're doing all these calculations in your head. And then you're like, you watch a puff of dust and you're like, meters per second, 1001, 1002, 1003. Okay, that went 20 meters over 3 seconds. That's 6 meters a second. That's something I can work out by looking. So that makes sense to me. And then I convert it back to miles per hour so I can put it in my Kestrel.
You can't do meters per second?
In my Kestrel?
Yeah.
I could, but then I'm not talking the same miles per hour as everybody else. You got to speak the same language.
There's that much math involved?
There is. You want
Josh
to start
is
getting
out.
into wind formulas.
Yeah. So Josh just pushed his microphone and he's left the room.
Gone.
Absolutely.
Wait, he's back somehow. Yeah, okay. See, I always used wind formulas, which were based on miles per hour. And at the end of the day, like, it's interesting how you got meters per second. That's something I've never looked at, never considered. But I would purely go miles per hour. And it was just a number. It was a number I would assign what I was visually seeing. So you see this much movement in these trees, that was 3 to 4 or whatever it was. And then from the maths behind that, you would basically plug that number into a formula that you had. You could, at the point where you could do it in your head, and that would give you a hold here, bang, away we go. There was not sort of that conversion that done. You just like, I know I don't understand miles per hour, but I do understand that what I'm visually seeing is this number. And so I did what you were talking about with the Kestrel.
Yeah, you calibrated yourself.
Correct. Yeah, and it was one of the guys that I've seen, a guy called Will, who did it extremely well, had a Kestrel on him 6-7 times a day, would pull the Kestrel out, hold it down, look and say 7. Hold it up in the air with the thing off and look at it and be like, that was 5. All right. And he would do that multiple times a day and get to the point where he'd be like, I think that's 3.5. Pull it out, 3.5 every time. And he was calling wind, and then he started practicing at distance. So one of the old, and I'm sure I've talked about this before, but I'll talk about it again because it's quite useful. And we found it really good is that we would go out in sort of 2 cars. We'd drive onto this property and one car would go one way, the other way, and we would be 400, 800, 1,200, whatever meters apart. They were all additions of 400, it seems. But anyway, we would be a distance apart. We would get out of the car and we would range so we had an understanding of the distance. And then we'd look at where the car was, and the other car with the other people who'd piled out the car, and we would radio call them a check on the wind. Like say, we think it is 8 mile an hour coming from this distance, from this location. And they would then confirm in real time it was this. They'd be watching the Kestrel as they were holding it to do it. And it was such a valuable exercise because not only could you work out what the wind was where you were having real-time confirmation of downrange wind. And of course, we would do things to start messing with each other, where you would you would struggle to walk up the hill because the wind was so strong as 1 mile an hour, or you like flick your hat up and it would just fly off, and all these sort of things. It was good fun, but it was. We would park in certain areas in little lulls of the wind, and you'd be like, oh, there's no wind. You look at our shirt or something like that. There's no wind going on, but just above us, where we were putting the kestrel, just above our head, it would be like 12 mile an hour. And so things like that, they were really good exercise to actually train to be able to look at the area, look at the terrain, read the terrain, knowing that this dip here is going to slow down a bit, but this dip with the wind going the other way is going to speed up, and being able to sort of work out what that was.
Yeah.
So when you're making your wind calls, what things are you looking for? Like, is it just in the trees? Like, what are you gauging your wind calls on?
Everything that moves, everything that can give you a bit of data that you can try and reference back to something you understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Plushy, you summed it up really well, because you're looking for something familiar.
Yeah.
And you're looking for something they're going, okay, I know these trees, I know these types of trees, and they move like this, and they move like this between 5 and 8 mile an hour. Every time I've looked at that and it's looked like that, it's been 5 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And then the better you get it, the more you compound that with, well, this terrain is going uphill. And so that wind is as it comes uphill, it's speeding up because there's less room for it. Down the bottom of the hill, there's a lot of room for it, but as it comes up, it's getting faster. And so across that crest, it's going to be going faster. And this is at the crest. I'm looking at the wind of the crest, not just in the lead up to it. So it's going to be going a bit quicker.
Yeah.
And it is repetition. It is doing that a lot.
Yep. So you're training yourself to be able to recognize and go, all right, all these things just naturally happen in one hit that you go, all right, wind's coming up, hill's doing this. Boom, that's what it is.
And it's not dissimilar. Sorry, Plushy, I keep cutting you off, but it's not dissimilar to what you were talking about in the F-class world. Now, the F-class guys use flags, but the flag is the same thing. You look at that flag, it does this. I know that flag doing that is 6 mile an hour, because whether it's because you've witnessed it before or whether it's because you've been told that, and that what you've been told is correct, because these flags are a known entity.
Yep.
By using flags, you know that it's a consistent marker. Whereas when you are just reading off terrain varies a lot. And you go somewhere else and the plants are different. There's different flora, and that responds. You go somewhere like Oklahoma, where the tree, they're exposed to wind all the time. So you look at them and you're like, it doesn't look like there's a lot of wind out there. It's because these damn things are so strong that they can deal with wind, right? Whereas we look at like a gum tree and you think that sucker be sideways in this wind. And so I found this in Oklahoma, where you look at the core and you're like, I think it's this, and you're like, it's like 2 to 3 times that, because the tree that you're looking at is so used to that wind that it's
it's got more rigidity to it and it doesn't move.
Yeah, correct.
Absolutely. And there's a few other things you can use, like let somebody else shoot first.
You're smart. Yeah, this is why you're a good shooter.
So
yeah.
Not always, but it depends on the level of shooter. So you got to make an informed decision. But generally, inexperienced shooters undervalue the wind. Generally, they're not bold with their wind calls. Usually,
Josh,
this guy,
and then they'll make a correction, and they don't make a big enough correction, so you get a bit of feedback off the correction as well.
Okay.
Watch the dust of when the inexperienced shooters miss the target, or the puff of dust you get off when they impact a target. Those sorts of things. In F class, same deal. You don't want to be the first person to take a shot, or if you spot a flag doing something weird, usually it's a good time to open the bolt, pull the projectile back, and just
wait.
Just jump on your spotter, or even look through your scope and just have a look across the range and see which way all the spotters come up.
Yeah.
And more often than not, you'll find all the people that keep shooting get blown off the center.
Okay.
There's all sorts of data that you can use. It doesn't have to be even the trees moving or anything like that. There's lots of other things. I know I'm more careful, fussy, whatever you want to put it, when the wind is coming from straight on or straight
anal.
on.
I want to say more anal.
Why not anal? Yeah.
Well, there's a TikTok out of this episode.
So if the wind is coming from in front or behind.
Temptation is there.
You gotta press that one again. Righto.
Don't know how it works in your house, but So a small flick either side of top dead center, or I'm not even going to say the rest.
So, perfect time to take a break and talk about our sponsor. Now, in the last episode we recorded, I poured this into my beard, which is one of the products from the Bearded Chap.
That was months ago.
That was ages ago. I know. I'm surprised I remember.
Your beard looks amazing.
Yeah, it does. So you should do that. Pour that sucker into your beard, and then we'll tell everyone what you're actually putting into your beard. It is. You've done a very good Home Alone impression there. This is hand sanitizer.
I can see your eyeballs poking out of your scalp.
no. We're good.
Okay, first up, must say, the Bearded Chap, based in Queensland, do not recommend you to put hand sanitizer in your beard. It is called hand sanitizer, not beard sanitizer. Just want to put that out there. But this is the way they turned their business around, actually, at the beginning of COVID, and they hired more staff when everyone else was laying people off. So Germ Killer, it's a high potent. You don't need much. Plus, how potent is it? You're crying.
With a capital P.
All right, cool. With a capital potent. This is, this is absolutely very solid stuff. So while you're ordering all the amazing things for your beard that are actually meant to go into your beard and smell nice and good and treat you with respect, you can also pick up some hand sanitizer for your hands, Josh.
I'm going to jump in here because I even got some beard stuff from the Bearded
You
Chap.
did
I
too.
I know I don't have the proper full beard.
No.
But even just popping a little bit in the morning,
Yeah.
the rest of the day you walk around with just a nice little smell that lingers with you.
And do you know what that
great.
smell is not?
What is that?
It's not hand sanitizer smell.
No, it's not, because I read the bit and said hands. So there's these things.
Does that beard oil encourage growth? Have you got a couple of extra going on the side there?
Oh, that's just laziness.
Let's go with the first part.
We'll see how it
Plushies
goes.
aside. Right, well, you can support. Oh, she's squirting everywhere. Right. So that really went everywhere, didn't it? Far out. Okay. So you can support us by doing stupid segments like this, as well as the Bearded Chap. Now, let me tell you that the Bearded Chap, Luke himself, is a shooter, so it's always good to support.
Just stop drinking the hand sanitizer.
I should stop drinking this. 80% ethanol. It's keen. Anyway, it's that just went in my glass. Thebeardedchap.com/impact if you want to support the show and support the Bearded Chap, who was a shooter-owned business. We love it. Good. Now, you were talking about something in F class that we kept going down, flicking the bean or something. And we took a break so we get away from all the dirty connotations. So we get straight into shooting sensibly. I mean, talking
This
sensibly.
is my serious face, right?
This is serious face.
Serious face, yeah.
Then you put some sanitizer on. That's it.
I need to wipe the tears out of my eyes.
This is meant to be the good product. Oh, I got a label
it's
wrong.
like Teflon.
Ooh, that was close.
Look at it.
I'm gonna get extra spin.
For those listening,
right.
It's not working.
I'm trying to spin.
Nothing here
I'm
is
trying to put
working.
this bottle back. So anyway, all right.
This is such an exercise
There
for
we
a
go.
podcast. Yeah.
We'll just edit that so it looks perfect.
So
Ta-da!
headwinds or tailwinds? Much better way of putting it. Headwinds, tailwinds.
I forgot you were talking about headwinds or tailwinds. Yes.
Yeah, far more
Carry on.
important than left winds and right winds, because a small change either way of center has a much larger effect. And when it's a headwind or a tailwind than it does when it's full left or full right value.
I've actually seen in, I believe it's one of the PRS matchbooks,
Yeah.
a graph that has this,
You
and I'm going to put it. It's going to pop up on the screen right now.
You should print it and laminate it and put it in your backpack for your shooting backpack.
All right, so I'm gonna ask for some clarification on your statement made there, because people listening or watching are going to say, "Hey, Plushy, you just said," and if they misheard you, perhaps they didn't pay attention to the nuance, that a headwind or tailwind has more impact on your shooting than a full value either side, left or right.
Correct.
That's not what you said, right? But that's what it sounded like, and people are going to be like, Plushy, that's wrong. If you get a tailwind and it's a perfect tailwind, that doesn't really affect your shooting all that much, or if it's a perfect headwind. But let's just go back over what you actually said there, because I just want to clarify that.
A small variation from
Yes.
center, whether it be a headwind or a tailwind, has a very large effect on the wind component of your impact.
Yeah. So for those, I just wanted to clarify that for those who missed it, because they might have thought you said that a headwind or tailwind has the big impact. But what you're talking about is that those 90-degree winds, if that 90-degree wind comes down to an 85-degree wind, it's only a small portion of what it was doing anyway.
It can come down to a 70-degree wind and it doesn't make that much of a difference.
But from a 0-degree wind to like a a 5 degree or 10 degree wind, that's actually putting some impact on that bullet versus very little.
I'm just very quickly trying to find a screenshot in my phone that is not going to be useful. Well, it's going to be very useful if I find it.
Okay, good.
To give some, here we go. I got it. So,
no.
if you imagine a clock face,
I can. Yep.
from a
We're in 12-hour time, right?
sure,
Just for everyone watching,
sure,
listening.
Yeah. So 0 hours on the 12 o'clock face.
Yep, that's the one up. That's the up.
My clock doesn't say 0.
So 12:30 right or 12:30 left on the clock
Yep.
is 1/4 full wind value.
Mm.
So if you go to, now we're talking a right wind, 2:30 or 3:30 on the clock face is 0.97 of full wind value. It's talking 3% versus 26%.
It's a big difference.
It's huge.
It's a big difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
And then you go to 1 o'clock on the clock face.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that, 30 degrees off centre?
Yep.
Half wind
That's
value.
half, yeah.
Half wind value.
See, people often think that is that sort of 3 o'clock down to 1 o'clock, down to what's that, 1:30 is half value there,
It's 0.7.
but it's not.
Yes.
It's not, because we think about a clock face, but a clock face is incorrect because it's linear. It's not round.
Mm-hmm.
It's not circular. But we use the. You're right there, Josh.
I'm good.
Did you drink the hand sanitizer? Or?
It was a wee bit stronger than I thought it'd be.
Okay, his weed
Anyway,
is stronger
It's
than
the
he thought it
special
would be.
sauce. Yeah.
Back to clocks.
But you throw me, Josh. But anyway, we're not.
Well, carry on, because I was actually like listening to that.
Oh, okay. So
I'm learning things.
rather than a clock, rather than a clock face, which is an interesting way of doing it, because it gives you sort of 360 radius to work with, but the actual wind impact isn't in that same sort of manner. The actual impact on
It's
your
not linear.
projectile.
No,
yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something to be aware of. I suggest you jump on a
Thing.
website and,
So
and
the
find
fact that it has such an impact in that range, is that due to how the bullet is twisting and moving downrange, as opposed to the wind pushing
probably.
straight dead on? It's the way it twists on the angle that makes it move a bit more.
So your
I
projectile.
could be way out.
Okay, so you clarify a couple of things. Your projectile doesn't get pushed on by the wind, right? Your projectile is going to weather vane, right? So
Yep.
weather vane always points in towards the wind.
Yep.
And because the projectile points into the wind, it sort of creates a larger bearing surface on one side, and therefore
Yep.
has more effect and starts moving, sort of in line with what would feel like being pushed on by the wind.
Yeah.
But it's because of that weather vaning effect.
Okay.
And so, because when you start having that small little wind as you come across, just off, we've gone down a rabbit hole, haven't we?
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's been a long time since I've discussed this stuff, and now I'm starting to realise why I used to talk about this stuff weekly and knew it extremely well, and now it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you come just off that sort of setup point, that actually the impact is pretty serious.
Yeah.
As you go sort of further out to the 2-3 o'clock, it's not. It's a smaller percentage of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'd take a 30 mile an hour right wind every day over a 5 mile an hour head on wind. Slightly switching head on.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably take the 5 mile an hour because it's more comfortable to shoot in, and it's probably easier to walk to the food truck and go and get a coffee, and I'm less likely to spill my coffee. And but we have different priorities, Plushy.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
have different priorities a match. You want to win it, I want to survive it.
I'm more worried about getting to the pub after.
So, as I said, survive it.
Yeah.
That's my challenge.
I guess it's interesting after, because I heard that comment. I think it was between you and Steve Blacker. Would rather shoot in that constant sort of 90-degree wind rather than that head-on sort of switchiness.
Although it does make it easier for everybody else. So there's a bit of a you don't necessarily wish for bad wind conditions, but
You'll take him.
sometimes
You've got an advantage.
Well, you give it to me at my home range, something weird and funky. I'll take that over a constant wind condition all day because you got more experience in it or something like that. I remember at the when did we have a finale last?
2019.
2019, the finale.
Well, it depends when this episode goes out. We may have had another finale in
Well, maybe,
2022. Unlikely though.
There was a stage at Monado. We had a fierce tailwind, a switching tailwind at Monado for the finale. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I can't remember, 12 or 16 miles an hour.
It was like a good Indian curry the night before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Big switching tailwind.
And we had a tripod stage. It was a troop line and
Mm-hmm.
people were getting, 3s, 4s and 5s maybe or something like that. And
Yeah.
I jumped on and borrowed a tripod that I'd never used before because that's what you do at a match.
Smart.
Jumped on and
Like when you borrow a scope that you've never used before at a match.
yeah, absolutely. And then jumped down and I think I got a 9 out of 10 and there was like clapping and everyone's like you've cleaned the stage. Yeah, you've done really well.
Good
And they're
job.
like, how did you do that? I'm like, I was shooting F class next door.
Looked at the flags.
I looked at the flags and I went from there.
Yeah.
How did you decide what wing call to make on your first one? I'm like, I couldn't, so I aimed at the middle.
Oh, good, mate. So your F class journey lasted a couple of years?
2 years. Yeah, I was working fly in, fly out, so it was always challenging.
Okay.
Be away I didn't have consistent roster, so you come home, shoot a match, go away for 3 months or 2 months or whatever, and come home and try and shoot a match and stuff like that.
And you shot a couple of sort of national level matches, is that right?
Queens, yeah.
Did all right?
Did all right. I think the first one I won one of the days, so they have like mini matches within the matches. So the second day I won the top points for the day.
Yep.
I was well and truly in the running on the last day, and I can tell you that it turns to pay your electronic hearing protection down.
Oh,
Because you can hear people talking in the background, and then I heard some things, and then I was not concentrating on what I should have been concentrating on, and dropped some decent points on the last stage. And
do you turn your
well.
earmuffs off for a PRS stage now?
I've been having this thought lately. After what match was it? Mildura.
Yep.
Mildura, I went really, really well on the first day.
Yeah, you did.
And then the second day, got in my head a little bit.
Okay.
And I think part of that was people want to, and it's natural if you've gone real, people come up and talk to you and they're like, oh, you're going so well, like you could win. And my brain doesn't work like that. I need to focus on the next stage only, and that's all I can focus on. If I think about something else, then it'll fall to pieces.
Yep.
And I thought about after that match, I'm like, if I get in that situation again, I'm absolutely going to double plug and turn my emails off.
Yep.
And just be in my own little space, and someone comes up to talk to me, I'll be like, oh, come here. Batteries are flat. I don't know. Something. I just told everyone what I'm going to do. It's great.
Just wear a shirt. I'm a selfish prick. I don't want to talk to you.
The only person,
but to be fair, like I get it. Like that makes sense. Actually.
Yeah. The downside, I guess, to that is you got to be able to hear the stage officer.
Of course.
Have to, safety. And it definitely helps if you're having trouble spotting your impacts. It definitely helps to be able to hear the spotter calling impact.
Yep.
I got caught out the last match on a target. I thought I was impacting. I heard impact, but the range was so tight.
Yes.
That turns out I think the person next door or other way was calling impacts, and I thought they were my impacts, and I didn't adjust. And then got up from the stage and thought I was impacting, and then they said, "Oh, you got a 5 out of 10." I'm like, "No, I cleaned that." I'm like, "No, you didn't." And
I remember this stage. Yeah, you got up so confidently of like, no, like I definitely hit everything.
yeah, and then I turned around to some of the other shooters who were on glass. I'm like, "Guys, I hit that, didn't I?" And they're like,
Nope.
I was like, shit.
No. Okay.
Oh, take my 5.
Fair enough. So you did all right in the F class world.
I wouldn't say a roaring success, but I held my own.
Did okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did all right. Yeah.
We had a very strong club that I was part of.
Yep.
They were of the F class Open World Championship team. There was approaching sort of a third to a half of the members were
From your club.
from that club. Yeah, very strong club.
Okay. Yeah, and that helps a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
we see that with PRS at the moment. The Minato club is very strong, is producing some good shooters that are all competing against each other. And what's the phrase? Iron sharpens iron. Have I got that right or wrong?
Rising tide lifts all ships or something. I can't remember.
Something. Iron rising iron lifts all boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Something.
What are you old guys on about?
What would you say, Josh?
I just wouldn't
Okay,
say
so
anything
this
because
is why
moving on.
we've moved on. Yeah, we don't ask
that's-
Josh's opinion.
That's right.
That's it.
Isn't it your bedtime, Josh?
It is actually
Well, it's
way
really
past.
That's right. A couple of more espresso martinis, you'll be gone. And so the you did all right in F class, and then what did you immediately sort of bail to PRS, or was there a transition period? I mean, I don't want to sort of bag out sort of why people leave F class. That's not the point of it, because obviously there's some real skill sets there, and for some people that's a big passion.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I was living in Mount Barker, and the range I was going to was Lower Light.
Okay,
So it's a
like
fair
an hour
hike.
and a half.
Yeah, close to an hour and a half each way.
Yeah.
And the average club shoot was 24 shots on a Saturday afternoon.
Sure.
it was getting a little bit much for Saturday afternoons.
Yep.
Sort of work. And then
24 shots really sets you back.
it does. Yeah. It's hard to drive home after.
Yeah.
A friend of mine invited me out to a PRI.
Yep.
And I think I came out and had a look, and within not long I already had I put a Tic Tac A1 and
Yep.
Nightfall scope and, all the bits and pieces, and then the F-Class rifle sat in the safe for 3 years. So they
enough.
eventually sold it because it didn't get used.
Yep. But many of those skills you learned in F-Class were very useful in PRS? Or?
Yeah, when I first started doing PRS, couldn't hit a thing off a barricade.
Yep.
But you put me down prone behind a rifle,
Hit everything.
and I was hitting pretty much everything. I was keeping up with very good shooters. So yeah, they're definitely a transferable skill. We had some of those guys that were still part of the club we used to shoot at F-Class come out to the range and shoot a club match.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, they came out and then much the same. Off of a barricade, couldn't hit a thing. And then you put a prone stage. Yeah, they're not just hitting the target. They're hitting center of the target. Good win calls, all that sort of stuff. Very transferable.
Yep. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, very good. Well, there we go. A little bit of a deep dive into the F-Class world and also how it relates to PRS, which is what we predominantly talk about. But, for those guys who have access to that or that's really interesting, they don't want to move around and run around and get all hot and flustered. They want to just sit there and perfect their win calls. No doubt. It's a good challenge.
Yeah, I think now they've sort of realised that if they want to grow their sport or keep their sport going, they need to open up. So now they've introduced things like Hunter Class, where you can take a rifle and a bipod, and you're competing against like for like rifles, not an F open gun or something like that. Some places are starting to allow muzzle brakes, which has not been popular at some of the F class ranges, but they're getting there. So it's something we can go do. There's a couple of ranges in South Australia that do a steel challenge.
Yeah, they do sort of a bit of a hybrid between, which is great to see.
That's right.
Really
so
good.
then those guys do really well on the prone
So
stages.
a mutual friend of ours, Maxwell, went up to one recently. He was the only guy from our club that went up to it.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I think he did third or something like that, but he said he paid $80 to shoot the match, came home with $150 worth of wine and cashews.
That must be a Loxton match.
He was very happy with it. He was very happy with his weekend.
Geez,
away.
how many people shot the competition? 3? Like Maxwell can't shoot that well.
I think only 2. He still came third. Anyway.
That sounds like Maxwell.
Top bloke, Maxwell. Top bloke. No, I think he did all right. He actually did all right. So, which is good to see. So, yeah, brilliant. That's I guess that's the type of club that's close by. There's still heaps you can learn from that.
Yeah, that's right. There's no reason you can't take your PRS gun and go shoot some F-class matches. You're maybe not going to be competitive with the top guys, but it doesn't mean you can't learn the skills that they have.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And then bring them back. There's nothing wrong with that. Go learn about reloading or what they do.
Yeah.
Those guys are a bit like BR shooters. They're generally pushing the envelope.
Yes.
But those guys know what the best current tech, all that sort of stuff is. Go learn from them.
Absolutely. Easy, Plushy. All right, thanks for the deep dive into F-Class.
Thanks for having me.
Sort of slightly deep dive into F-Class.
Shallow dive. Let's
Shallow
do a
dive.
shallow dive.
Yeah, we sort of just like skimmed rocks across the top. That's it. Josh, off to bed with you, I guess.
Yeah, to bedtime. I think I actually learned stuff today, which is good.
Well, we can't do that.
That's a first for a podcast.
We'll blow Josh's mind. He usually can't understand what's being said. That's the issue. All right, anyway, we're out of here. See ya.
Thanks. See ya.